talar också Jesper Ole Jensen som vi hälsar välkommen upp på scen. Jesper är seniorforskare vid Byggg på Ålborg Universitet och forskningsområdet är bostadsmarknaden och hållbarhet. Varsågod.
Ja, tack för det. Jag vet inte om jag ska fortsätta på dansk, svensk eller engelsk. Jag tror att Camilla klarar det meget godt på engelsk, så om vi skal fortsætte den vej. Er det okay? Ja, godt. Jeg hedder Jesper Ole Jensen, og jeg arbejder med forskellige... sorry. This is only the introduction. I will make that in English, in Danish, and I'll switch to English. I think we agreed on that, right? Yeah, more or less. Okay, sorry. This is me, and I work with different parts of the housing market, alternative housing forms, sustainable development, etc. And sometimes also I work, or actually I'm beginning to work a lot more about co-housing in Denmark. And of course also internationally try to compare what things happen here and in other countries. Right. So the first thing, Camilla said a lot of those things actually already, so I'm just filling up on some of the issues that she mentioned. One of the things she mentioned was that shared research project that we have sort of like to start out about saying, okay, how many co-housing projects do we have? How many settlements do we have? Where are they, etc., etc. And we made a collaboration with bogemenskaperna. We got funding for that, and the way we did it was that we took all the member lists that from Camilla's organization and said, okay, let's update that and see how there's a lot of co-housing communities that have not been included in this list for some reasons. And we also wanted to find if there are other coming up projects that we haven't registered yet, and we took all the addresses in the co-housing, each co-op and co-housing settlement, and took into the Danish registers. You know, we can go in and have from research access. We can go into the registers and look who is living there and how much, what kind of family are they, how old are they, what building do they live in, etc. That's what we do often when we do research, looking really into people's private homes and so on. So it's a bit, so you have to be careful to aggregate all the data, so you can't go down on the each household and say, Camilla, she's now we know a lot about her. You know, we're not allowed to do that, of course, but we could aggregate those data. And Camilla mentioned a few of them about who's actually living in Danish co-housing, and she said a little about the social profile and so on. But this is just to say this is a picture of the development in Denmark since the first one in 1971. The red ones are what we call the aged mixed bofællesskab co-housing, right? As compared to the senior co-housing. And we also included some of the eco-villages that Camilla talked about, and also some of the communes. Those are not fully covered in our research, but they were included because some of them were a part of the or saw themselves also as a co-housing and as a part of this this membership organization, Byggutvecklarbyggda. But the main point is you could see that we have had ups and downs in Denmark, ups here in the middle of around the 2000s. A lot of senior co-housing was built there. Then we've had a big valley here going here. And then in recent years, we've come up to, now it's really going up quite a lot at the moment. We stopped counting, I think, in 21 when we did this. But I just checked on the way up here that the senior co-housing, it's still really on a high. I think it's about 25 new senior co-housing projects have been started each of the last 3 years or something like that. That's quite a lot, actually. It's something like this. So it seems like it's staying up in a quite high level about new projects being developed. And a big part of this that Camilla also mentioned is that now we have seen, all this out here that was totally grassroots started here, right? The first ones in here. Gradually, we have more senior co-housing coming in, and at this stage, actually, we also had some professional developers who wanted to build this in Denmark. For different reasons, this went quite much down here around the financial crisis. But then it's been laying down for some time, and now it's raising again, and also because of the developer-driven co-housing. That we have been looking into in another research project, where we have looked at the what is this concept coming up really. First, I want to say that Camilla mentioned a bit who are those developers. It's really a mixed group. We have some smaller specialized companies like the one that Camilla had worked for, and Almena, and some others. And then we have the big building companies like the one who stands behind the bogemenskaper. It's called Sjælsø-gruppen. It's now owned by a Swedish company. That's why it actually ended up coming to Denmark. Because some of the people from the Danish company was up visiting their mother company in Sweden, and they said to them, "Hi, by the way, now you're here, why don't you go have a look at the bogemenskaper? People are happy about that." And they were like, no, I have to catch a train back. Come on, you should go and see there. And what they said is that from the moment they went in there, they only saw happy people. And people said, this is the best decision I ever made in my life. And then was okay, wow. Seems like it has some qualities, this. They took it to Denmark, and now it's been rolled out as what we call a turnkey concept, right? This is where developers built the co-housing, all the physical stuff with the design, the buildings, the flats, the shared rooms. This is from another of those turnkey concepts that we have. It's called Agorahaven. It's another big building company called Tetris who's behind that. And they are rolling out this concept in different cities. As you understand, this is just to illustrate in a very simple way. There's a continuum going from the bottom up, the resident-led approaches, where the residents start up the idea, the concept, collect a group of people, and finally make a contract with a developer who buys the plot, or maybe they go to the bank and lend some money, and maybe sometimes also they build something themselves, but normally they would get in the end a professional developer to build or contractor to build the buildings for them. Then we have also some that we see more and more nowadays, also the resident and developer-driven partnerships, where they early in the process, the group of residents get a hold on the developer and get the financing in place and get an architect and so on. So they work together as a group, and they form also their community. They get the ability to form their ambitions and so on in collaboration with the developer and so on. And then we have the more extreme one that I'm going to say a little more about now, is the developer-led top-down approach, where developers simply build the co-housing from the start and then invites the residents to come in. And it's when they move in, then they have to start forming their community, find out how do we share things here, what are our ambitions and so on. And of course you can say that there's a lot of challenges in this naturally. This is based a bit on what we have read about some of the development that has happened actually also in the US. They have had a quite similar development as we see now in Denmark. Professional developers coming in, making turnkey projects. There's some strengths in this. The resident-led projects, as you all probably know, it takes a lot of time. That's filled with risk. Takes a long time to find out what are our ambitions, what do we want here, how do we want the design, and how do we get the finance to buy the plot? How do we find a piece of land where we can build? How do we get in contact with the municipalities to make a local plan and get building allowances, building permissions, and so on? And this is a long process. It takes typically 6, 8, 10 years maybe. And in the end, when you have to put down the money, there's a lot of money you have to put down, then you always find some residents that opts out, and you have to get some new one in, and so on. And people live in and have to sell their home first, and then you all probably know some of these risks attached to that. So you can say that this is an advantage or strength when you get the developer-driven, the developer in at the project and takes care of all this. But of course, you also lose some of this growing, learning to get to know each other among this group of people along the way, and already having formed probably a community feeling and a social cohesion along the way. So what happens now when you have to is it possible to form a community when you don't know people on beforehand? And of course you get the larger ownership to the community when you build it from the bottom. It's funny because when we talk to people, they argue, both of the groups here, the resident-driven and the developer-driven, argues that there's less conflicts among the residents in our concept. Those here, they say, they know each other beforehand. We have already sorted out how do we solve our conflicts and who can we agree on, and those who don't like us, they have left the group, etc., etc. So therefore, there's not that much conflicts. Those people over here, they say, well, we built the whole thing. We decide the design, so people don't have to argue about that. They have to move in and just sit down and talk and start joining each other and having a good time. Can both be true? I don't know really, but for sure, I'm not sure, because none of them are totally right, because we find conflicts in both concepts here for sure, and also this one, I have to say. This is what we see. A lot of, and I did mention that what we see now when it's about 30% of the new built co-housing units is developer-driven, turnkey projects actually. So it's quite a big share there. So this is what they think about the concepts here. They want co-housing for ordinary people. They want voluntary commitment. Participation, and they also want design for spontaneous meetings that you see some examples of here. So they think a lot about how to design these places here. When we look at some key features from how do they perform these ones here, we see there's a lot of less privately owned in the community, in the developer-driven, and more private rent. And this also signalizes that they actually, I think they look at a broader market and see which type of people can we get in, and say there's a big share of, as Camilla also said, maybe this is more like people, the traditional market for the eco-villages and co-housing has been people with long educations, high salaries and so on. Here we can make co-housing for people with lower incomes or mixed incomes and so on, which makes it probably also more economically safe for them. So, and we can see they also build some higher, larger units of co-housing, 52 dwellings on average, something like that, where normal Danish co-housing is 20 something. They have what seems like more small dwellings. And they build often more projects in multi-story buildings and close to the development areas and so on. Yeah, my time is running out, so just to say that it's when we go out and visit these places and ask people, how do you feel about living here? What have your been expectations and so on? It's difficult to summarize totally because people have very different experiences about it. But generally we feel, and then we also have to say this is quite new. Some of these projects that we have studied is less than, it's maybe just 2 years old and so on. So there's a lot to learn from that actually. Yeah, so we think there's a big potential for developing this further, but also a lot of challenges about how to, how to make the community work. Yeah, okay, I'll stop here and say thanks a lot.
Ja, men väldigt intressant och jättespännande med siffrorna som visar lite grann olika delar. Och jag kan sitta här och tänka hela tiden att vi har ju någonting som vi kallar för bostadsrätt.
Ja.
Finns ju ingen annanstans. Men det var ju precis då samma tanke från början med bostadsrätten, att det var ett sällskap av olika människor som tillsammans bestämde sig för att ta ett lån och låta någon utvecklare bygga huset. Ja. Och det är klart att det finns ju en skala här på bogemenskaper och bofällesskaper, och vi pratade med talaren förut också, att det här från att vi är väldigt då involverade själva, bygger tillsammans, bygger själva, håller nere kostnaderna, till att vi nu är i en mer marknadsdriven bofällesskap eller bogemenskap.
Ja.
Vad ser du för risker i detta? Inga?
Jo, altså, der er jo et spørgsmål om, hvad er det for nogle, sorry, now I'm speaking, nu taler jeg dansk.
Ja, nordiska, det går bra. Ta danska.
Okay, jeg prøver det danske, ellers må I sige skift, hvis jeg skal. Men risikoen kan vel være, at du sælger du etablerer nogle koncepter, hvor vi siger, vi forventer, at du skal have masser af godt naboskab, grænskab, du skal have meget gemenskab her, vi skal lave fællesskab osv. Men det er jo svært for developerne at garantere, at det kommer til at ske. Fordi du ved ikke, altså en udfordring for developerne er, hvem flytter ind, hvem ønsker at flytte ind i det her bogemenskab. Fordi nogen kunne måske godt tænke sig bare at have en fin bolig. Det er jo gode placeringer her. Og hvis vi har 100 boliger, ja, så kan jeg vel nok lige... Jeg behøver vel ikke deltage i fællesspisning, jeg behøver vel ikke deltage i... Så det er en udfordring at finde ud af, hvem er du virkelig interesseret i det her gemenskab, eller vil du bare have en god bolig? Hvis du får for mange ind, som siger, som ikke er interesseret i det her, så risikerer du at få et community, et fællesskab, et gemenskab, som ikke leverer på det her, som det egentlig er sat i udsigt. Og så tror jeg, at folk kan blive vældig skuffet over sig og sige, jamen det var ikke det, jeg havde ønsket mig.
Du hade ju bild på bogemenskaperna då, som ju tydligen har gått över sundet.
Ja, det må man sige.
Ja, och bogemenskaperna, jag vet inte hur många som känner till, men det är ju ett koncepthus där man då har etablerat strukturer för de boende att gå in i. De är liksom anmodade att göra det när man kliver in, för att den här typen av sociala bindningar ska ske mellan de boende. Och det är ju bostadsrätt i Sverige. Jag vet inte hur det ser ut i Danmark, om det är en annan upplåtelseform. Det är ägarlägenheter, gissar jag.
Ja, det er faktisk det, der hedder andelsboliger. Og det er vel det, som kommer tættest på bostadsrätt, ikke? Ja.
Men du pratade ju också om hyresrätt kontra ägt boende. Ja. Och att det var mer hyresrätter på developerdrevna processer.
Ja.
Hur funkar de?
Jamen, det er jo det, vi også spørger os selv om. Ja. Hvordan fungerer de egentlig her? Og der må vi sige, altså, vi har været ude og studere de her relativt kort tid efter, de er startet op. Og de første år, at de har fungeret, der var corona, også nedlukning. der har de ikke kunne lave deres mødes til fælles spisning, så de har været, så det er faktisk først inden for de sidste 2 år her, at de er rigtig kan begynde at fungere. Jeg tror, at nogle steder har man haft den oplevet det her med, at nogle beboere er flyttet ind, og har haft en oplevelse af, jamen det her var ikke det, jeg havde ønsket mig. Jeg troede, det var et andet gemenskab, vi skulle have her. Jeg troede, vi skulle være mere sammen. Jeg troede, vi skulle lave flere fælles ting. Og så er de måske flyttet over til et andet bogemenskab, som minder mere om deres ambitioner. Så jeg tror, det er et formeringsproces omkring med at finde ud af, hvad vil vi? Og det er jo en udfordring også for developer at melde ud. Developer kan godt melde noget ud, så sige, vi forventer her også, som du så reklamen fra Boveren, som Camilla viste her, vi forventer, at vi skal stå og spille pingtang, og vi skal drikke kaffe, og vi skal drikke vin, osv. Men i sidste ende er det jo beboerne selv, som skal finde ud af, hvad er det, vi vil her. Developeren kan ikke skabe fællesskabet for beboerne. Det må de selv finde ud af. Så den proces, den tror jag tar tid.
Nej, och nu tar jag all frågestund här, tänker jag, för jag blev så full av frågor när du pratade.
Det är publiken också kanske.
Jag förstår det. Jag har jättekort tid, men jag ska släppa in det. Men jag ska bara säga att det finns ju exempel på precis det du beskriver i Sverige också. Ja. Både på
co-housing-boenden i Danmark?
Ja, men det var et godt spørgsmål, jo. Altså, og det er der mange, der spørger om.
Ja, men jag menar från oss så är det så, vad bra det är, gud vad bra, men för att vi jobbar med det. Jag tänker från ett forskningsperspektiv är det ju spännande att ta det.
Altså en ting, jeg vil fremhæve, det er jo også, at det er den her ensomhedsdiskurs, som er, altså, og det ser vi jo, ensomhed er et stigende problem i Danmark også. Det er både blandt unge og blandt ældre, især. Og det kan være et svar på måske en refleksion af, at flere ønsker noget fællesskab. Og der kan det her være en af måderne at skabe mere fællesskab på, og der findes jo andre måder også at skabe mere fællesskab på. Men jeg tror, at de seniorer også, vi ser, der flytter ind i bofællesskaber, i seniorbofællesskaber, det er jo alle en generation, som er vokset op med enfamiliehuse. Altså i Danmark, vi betragter os selv som et land af enfamiliehusejere. Det er den mest populære boform i Danmark. Og halvdelen af de huse, vi har, de blev bygget mellem 1960 og 1970. Nej, 1960 og 1980, ikke? Og mange af dem, de er seniorer nu, og de skal finde et alternativ til deres enfamiliehus. Og de er måske trætte af at sidde i deres lille hus herude, og der er ikke noget gemenskab på tværs af de huse, eller nogle faciliteter, eller noget. Så måske er der et større efterspørgsel, som gemmer sig i den boform.
Jag får be publiken om ursäkt över att det blev så lite tid för era frågor, men jag tänker att du finns ju här, åtminstone på fikat nu. Om någon vill ställa den frågan så går ju det ypperligt.
Ja.
Tusen tack!